Welcome to my first video. This is going to be how I set up my charts for the week. Now, as you can see here, every candle we have on here represents one a week. So the first thing I like to do is map out targets that the weekly candle might want to hit. So here we are. We have an order block here. It's these series of 4 red candles down. As you can see, this last week here, we popped right back in and out. We kind of zoom in here. If I bring this down just a little bit, I mean, it almost closes right on the top there. So what I would want to see, since this just popped in, popped right out, for it to continue going up. So my first target is going to be this, well, what is this, July 22nd's low. So if we move it over here, the low is 18,083 and a quarter. So that'll be my first target for this week. I would want to see it push up. If we push back down, I would think that we'll probably at least go halfway of this wick, which, if we just do the fib on this wick, actually it's halfway of this gap. So if we do come back down, I want to see it hit halfway and then go back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out my weekly candle here, the high, and I just always have these kind of marked out. I know the colors that I like to use. Oops. So this is going to be the weekly range. We want price to push out over here. So from a weekly stance, it looks like price should continue up. Now what we want to do is, I like to just put a little blue. So this is going to be halfway of the weekly order block. So now when I delete this, okay, so it'll just be that one target here. If we start going down, I really don't want it to push too far below. Now if we go to the daily, okay, we took out this low here. We're kind of struggling, pop back down, popping back up. We had another green day. We just want to see this thing push up. What I like to do is, also we have this daily order block. So the weekly consisted of basically this candle through this, right? Or maybe it was these candles. When we go to the daily, this kind of gets a little more refined, this order block. It's not as big. We just want to see. So on the daily, pops in, pops right back out. Now we're popping back in and out. Like, we really want to just start seeing this thing push up. For me, I mean, we didn't have a close above this red candle here until Thursday. We finally had a close above, and now we're pushing back up. If we look, zoom in just a little bit here, we have this low, which is right, look here, this is 18,383, and the high on this one is 18,390. So this one pushed in just a little bit down below, and now it's popping back up. And we don't really want to see this thing pop back down in here. We just, like, it's time to go. So now we have a big gap in between these two candles. So I like to mark that out. We'll have to zoom in just a little bit here. have mine in yellow. You can pick whatever color you want. So look where we closed. Almost exactly halfway. Popped out, closed at halfway. When it comes to these big daily gaps, I like to then cut this in half. This half a daily into another half, if that makes sense. Because now the next target is gonna be here. So this was 18,737 and a quarter, and then the final target is gonna be 18,847 and a half, roughly. Let's just zoom in a little bit, make sure we have all that on. There we go. So when I'm looking here for the daily, so the daily and the weekly are talking to each other. They're both getting in their order blocks and popping out. Daily is finally closed above this down candle here, closed halfway. Personally, the lowest I would want to see it go would be just to touch the bottom of this daily fair value gap and then pop back up. So when we open tonight, an overnight, maybe possibly come back down here, but I'd really just want to see it go now. I also like to mark out the daily high and low. So when we have these on, say, a Friday, okay, I guess our week probably was just off a little bit. There we go. So the weekly high is going to be the same as this Friday's. So we're not going to do Friday's high because then we'll have two there. But now we want to start on a higher time frame. We got a week, today, 4 hour, and kind of is like everything talking to each other. So we're just adding targets. I'm looking, this could be a daily order block going up, so it could get halfway into this green up candle and then kind of pop back down and then before heading back up. So now I'm going to just go to the 4 hour and what other targets, like, is this telling us the same story? And if we look here, we have the same order block as the daily. Pops back out, pops back in halfway, right back out. Now if you look at the 4 hour, if we go back to the daily, daily's coming in and out. 4 hour, we come in, come back out, and now it's just popping on top, right? So it's respecting this order block. For me, since it came out, popped, and went, I really just want to see it go now. We already hit halfway, so there's really no need for this to come back down, in my opinion. It hit the top of the order block and went. If anything, we closed above these two down candles here, possibly coming down to halfway, which would be 253.75 and 3/4, roughly in this area. If anything, pop back down into this area and then rock and roll going up. So I'm gonna just mark out this. I'm gonna make it a little smaller. It's gonna be halfway of the 4 hour OB. Actually, let's just, okay. We don't have too many lines on our chart, but we just want to have little reminders of like, okay, it's coming back down. We know kind of in the back of our head, okay, we don't really want it to go below the halfway of this 4 hour order block, or at least close below it. On the 4 hour candle, don't really want it to go under this halfway of So like this area here is kind of like the area we want to see just pop in and go. As for the upside, we have this swing high right here. Look at that blue. I really like to use my swing highs and lows on the hour time frame, but these are pretty defined here. So, oops. So these are my targets. Ultimate targets here is let's go get this liquidity. Go get this liquidity. We also have a little swing here that I'll put. Okay. So these are kind of the targets. Same 4 hours telling the same story, popping off and going up. So everything's going up. Let's go to the hour. Okay. Now, when we're looking at the hour here, when I'm doing my gaps, I only mark out my hour gaps. So, for instance, we have a massive gap here going up. So let's zoom in just a little bit here. Let's fill that up. Okay. We have the 4-hour order block halfway, pretty close with this, halfway of this fair value gap. So maybe pop back down into this area and then go. And actually I want to delete this, we don't need that. Okay. Zoom in here, have another order block. Order block fair value gap. Put it down right there. Alright, so bottom targets, we have this gap, and this one's off just a little bit, I can tell already. Alright, everything's on there. So for our bottom targets on the hour, we have a gap here that could fill up. We have a gap here could fill up. We have some liquidity down here that it could go take out. And I'm just going to pop this up a little closer to that candle. We also have some more liquidity here. Swing low, swing low. So those are kind of our bottom targets. I'm not going to worry too much about no, I think we do have all our gaps down here filled. Okay, on the top target, we do have a big gap here, as you can see. On the hour, I'm not really going to mark it because we have this day, and we just don't want too much stuff going on here. So I'm going to just kind of leave that open. But I do want to look at this gap. I mean, if we start making it all the way through here, I feel like then we're gonna try to pop back up into this. We've already popped into it once and it just completely fell down. I'm gonna change the color on these. Now on my hourly fair value gaps, bearish and bullish, I have certain colors, just as I have certain colors to identify the weekly high, the daily highs and lows. Let's see here. Okay, so here's all our targets going up. So going on, here's our hour. We don't really have any swing highs other than right here. So my thought is if mean, this can be the ultimate target. That's my thought. Is right here. The last thing I like to do on the hourly here is just, let's look at the fib, right? Like, let's see where we're at currently. And you want to do these on like the current price range. And so the current price range for us is this swing high and this swing low. Like, this is our range. You don't really want to like do the very highest high and the very lowest low, because it's already retraced a couple times and now we're going up and retracing. So you just want to do your current price range to get the most accurate fib here. So if we think this is going down, right, we're in a downtrend, basically what we want to do is we're going to take this price range and let the fib on here. And as you can see, we are right at halfway on this price range. And what I like to do is kind of look at targets here. So when we hit halfway, we're kind of bumping our head here, just like we hit over here, right? So we have an area, and we have an area of consolidation on either side. And basically, I would like to see it just kind of pop down a little bit here, gather more liquidity, and then just push through. And as you can see, the 618 is literally perfect with our daily fair value gap. See how all that works? I mean, it's not random. So I guess my ultimate target right now, I'm eyeing this 852, and we're at 611 now. So that's a 240-ish point swing. So 240 in one contract is $20. So you do the math. We have the 76 up here, and that's right almost in the middle of this fair value gap. So once again, I think that's another good target here. So when I'm looking, since we already hit halfway, I really want to see how do we respond here. If we're going to continue going down, so the trend has been going down. If we're going to continue going down, I would want to see it kind of maybe consolidate a little and then just fall. So if we back up here a little bit, and if we kind of just zoom out, here's our highest high, and we started falling down. So the way I like to look at this is, okay, well, in the past, how did this work? So let's start at the top here. So in the past here, we got to halfway, hit our head a little bit, pushed through, came back down, pushed through 786, and then pushed back down. So every time it gets to one of these levels, it reacts and goes back down, and then we just completely fall out of the bed. So if we look at the next price range here, and once again, what I'm going to do, I think I had this back. No, I did not. So I'm going to move this down to this swing high, and let's just see how it reacted. Alright, completely fell, got over 25 and then just kept going. So let's see, down to the swing low, and let's move it to the swing high in this price range. So like, see here, we got to halfway, kind of just consolidated, back and forth, popped up, hit the 618, and then just completely fell down. So that's what we want to see. If this thing's going to continue down, we expect it to consolidate around the 50 and maybe even pop up to the 618 and 786. But when it starts to fall, that's what we want to see, just this big massive fall, just like over here, consolidated and then just fell. So I mean, here we are in our current range. Now let's go back to our range. So, I mean, for me tonight, when we open, I'm not expecting much. I'm expecting that we're just gonna kind of maybe stay in our lane here, bump our head, maybe pop up to the 618, come back down, pop up here, and then do we just fall? Or do we continue to push up? So you really want to keep in mind these levels. So in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, this 858, this 922, let's just say 200s. So the 200s, the 850s, these are for me important levels that when we get up there, I want to kind of just keep in the back of my head. How are these reacting? Are we just pushing right through? Or are we popping back down? So this chart now, so I'm going to go ahead and just remove those. And so, I like to write all these down, all these levels, and then during the week, kind of just check them off as we are going. So I'll write down the level here, I'll write down these levels, and then as we go, just kind of a checkbox as we're hitting them. Let's see here on the hour. So one last thing, then I like to go to 15 and kind of just okay, and so you see all these pop up. I do like to use pretty much the only indicator I like to use is this ICT kill shot. It gives you all of the different trading times. So you have your New York PM, New York AM, and your London. And then when you get in and, oh, we're on regular hours. Shoot. Okay, well, for regular hours, that's how all this is. I didn't realize that's on regular hours. Basically, you want to do this, but you want to make sure you're on electronic trading hours 24 session. That way you don't miss out on the fair value gaps and everything. But everything should be about the same. So what I'll do, go back and kind of redo this on electronic trading hours and see kind of does everything line up. And the only thing that's going to really change are the gaps, the fair value gaps on the hour time frame. So if we go back here, before we had one big gap. So now that we're doing electronic trading hours, it's just going to kind of tailor it down. It's just going to give you a little more detail. So now we just have that gap, and if we move this here, we're just going to have this gap down here. I never have it on regular trading hours. I was just testing something, so I kind of completely forgot to check that. So coming back down, we have these gaps. Now, this gap here is kind of crossed from this gap, right? These gaps over here. So, I mean, I could see it maybe sweeping below this swing low, popping here, then going, but it's not really a big target for me. When we look here, just adjust this gap a little bit. The daily gap should be fine. And then just up here, these targets. So just gonna bring that over. this down. Okay. And then this last one. Then what I'm gonna do also, I'm gonna run that fib again and just see how things line up. They lined up pretty good with what I had before. Let's just see if that messes things up. Okay. I'm gonna pop this up a little bit here, because now we have a new swing high that was hidden by the the regular trading hours. So let me just do this real quick. So it's still kind of, it's in the same area, right? We still have halfway. We still want to get this closed, and 786 is still right under that gap. So still makes sense to come up into this area this week. The question is, how are we going to get there? And my next video will be on, once you have this all set up, how do you actually trade it? How do you get in and attack this? Alright, thank you so much.